Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius, the official energy drink of PewterReport.com. It's an emergency podcast. Happy Friday afternoon, Bucs fans, and rejoice because the big announcement has just come out from Mike Garafolo that the Bucs are hiring Josh Grizzard as their offensive coordinator. Of course, this is an in-house hire, as Grizzard was already the passing game coordinator for the Bucs. Now he's going to be their play caller for the offense in the 2025 season. Let's break it all down, folks. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me is the face that runs the place at PewterReport.com, SR Scott Reynolds. Scott, we've talked about Josh Grizzard before, but it's real, it's tangible. He is the next play caller for the Buccaneers.
He is, and this is another incident where the Buccaneers are hiring somebody that doesn't have any play calling experience at any level, kind of like Dave Canales. But what he does have is a very bright offensive mind, and that was one of the things that was kind of explained to me about the staff. Matter of fact, a couple of Bucs sources told me that when Liam Cohen was assembling the staff and they were in the building for the first time. This is back in late February, mid-February. Grizzard was one of the guys that stood out. Very bright guy, smart guy, and this is really a hire that we've kind of forecasted for a while now. I wrote about it in SR's Fab 5 a couple weeks ago. Like, if they lose Cohen, this is probably going to be one of the guys that they take a look at in-house. The other guy, Jake Peets, I think I mentioned. He was, I think, staying with Seattle as their pass game coordinator. He didn't get a look this time around, but he was in the mix last year as a candidate. So, and I heard some good things about him, but ultimately it was Grizzard, and pretty much said on the Pewter Pulse on Wednesday that it was down to Grizzard and Nick Haley. And I think those were the two guys that they were considering, neither of which have play calling experience, by the way. Buccaneers kind of going the Dave Canales route here. But the good thing is they wanted continuity. That was a big thing, not just with the system that Liam Cohen brought over from LA, with the verbiage, the terminology, the coaching staff, right? And maybe there was an instance where if you bring in an outsider like a Nick Haley or someone else, Shieldhouse, for example, that maybe they don't have. Maybe they don't mesh with somebody on the staff, right? And the Buccaneers love the fact that they leveled up on the offensive line with Kevin Carberry and with Brian Picucci. They leveled up a tight end with new coach Justin Peel. They leveled up a wide receiver with Brian McClendon, the new receivers coach. Even Skip Pete, a holdover, leveled up the running back room. And Grizzard has experience working with all of them last year. So that there's not any chemistry issues. There is tight camaraderie there. They worked in concert, in unison, as a collaborative process with Liam Cohen. And this promotion makes sense on a lot of levels because they want to do whatever they can to keep things relatively the same for the Buccaneers, generally speaking. Liam Cohen's playbook is vast. The game plans for each opponent were different. And what they didn't want to do, it's hard to just, you can't just pick up where you left off in the NFL. You have to kind of build everything from the ground up again. But what they didn't want to do was a complete demolition. We're bringing in an outsider. They would have a new scheme, new concepts, new verbiage, new assistants. They didn't want to blow it up. They wanted to keep things relatively the same. And now, just like Liam Cohen did with Sean McVay's offense, putting his own spin on it, Josh Grizzard, who was in charge of third downs last year for the Buccaneers, will have his chance to put his own spin on some of the plays in the playbook as well.
Yeah, a couple of my initial thoughts is, we've talked about this Bucs team before, how they completely turned around the whole roster, going from one of the oldest teams to one of the youngest teams. Well, they didn't just stop with the players playing on the field. They did it with their coaches as well. Liam Cohen, of course, was a younger head coach at 38, 39 years old. Now Josh Grizzard comes in, calling the plays at 34 years old. I mean, you want to talk about a whiz kid, a guy that's still kind of getting his feet wet, but at the same time, having a lot of experience in the NFL. That's very hard to find at this level, and for someone so still young in their career. My second thought as well was I'm very happy for Baker Mayfield because Baker
Yes.
has been screwed over time and time again, finds the right footing with the coordinator, and then that coordinator is either fired or takes another position or whatever the case may be. It's happened throughout his career. He has
Yep.
not had that continuity. And yes, he's not working with Liam Cohen again, but he gets as close as you possibly can to continuity with Josh Grizzard calling the plays because he was the passing game coordinator. Passes the football, the quarterback. So it's not like there's has to be this getting to know you type of situation between Baker Mayfield and Josh Grizzard.
Great point.
Together, they work with each other. I mean, we were listening to Josh Grizzard's interview back in the spring. He talked about how much he loved that Baker is trash talking and motivating and keeping it going and keeping it fast and furious the whole time. So I think they're going to match really well. I mean, they're pretty close in age too.
Yeah.
Like Baker Mayfield get along more with Josh Grizzard than maybe any other coach on the coaching staff. So I think it's important. And I thought you brought up a good point as well, where the Bucs don't want to kind of reinvent the wheel once again with this offense. You can make the case for it when they went from Dave Canales to Liam Cohen because the offense was good with Dave Canales, but it was great with Liam Cohen. They were a top 5 offense. You don't want to change that. You don't want to, start all over again when you got to such a good point. So I'm very excited for Josh Grizzard to take the baton from Liam Cohen and put his little spin on it, like you mentioned. Maybe we get a couple of not trick plays, but tricks of the trade of maybe what from Mike McDaniel with the Miami Dolphins, which is something that Liam Cohen didn't have. Goes into his bag of tricks, something that the Bucs didn't run this year that maybe Grizzard wanted to, but Liam Cohen went in a different direction. So this is a good day for Bucs fans. Obviously people were angry last week when Liam Cohen left. Now they're on the other side of things. The grass is a little greener now. Rainbows are shining. They got the Grizzard of Oz calling plays for the Buccaneers.
Yeah, for sure. And let's give Liam Cohen some props. He hired Josh Grizzard. So, maybe that's the parting gift as he leaves for Jacksonville, right? Is Josh Grizzard, who was his right-hand man in terms of the pass game coordinator, stays on. And maybe the Buccaneers go with somebody else if they don't have that exposure to Josh Grizzard this year. But that's probably the case. As Dominic Tarantino says, does Josh Grizzard's age make it more likely he's here at least 2 years? That's very well said. Yeah, we hope so, right? I mean, this is getting to be a little, I don't know, is it comedy? Is it tragedy? The fact that the Buccaneers are on their 4th offensive coordinator in 4 years? I don't know, but I like this guy. I think this was a really good hire. We've kind of been pointing in this direction for some time. Didn't really think it was a Dave Ragone. We didn't think it was going to be Marcus Brady from the Chargers. I think it was either going to be he or Nick Haley with Nate Shieldhouse kind of like as the dark horse candidate. Maybe the outside shot. But this just makes a lot of sense for a lot of different reasons. And he's unproven offensive coordinator, right? Liam Cohen had a couple years worth of play calling experience at Kentucky. That helped him obviously transition from NFL junior, which is what I call the SEC, to the NFL. And Dave Canales had a little bit of a rougher start because he didn't have any play calling experience at the college level or at the NFL level. So we'll see how smart and with it Josh Grizzard is. It's one thing to be the advisor. It's another thing to be hands-on and you're the one making the calls. But you know what? As I said with Dave Canales and also with Liam Cohen, there was a time where Kyle Shanahan called plays for the first time. There was a time when Matt LaFleur called plays for the first time. Same with Sean McVay. Same with Mike McDaniel. Same with Zach Taylor. All these hotshot head coaches, they all started somewhere, right? Dave Canales, same thing, started right here in Tampa, and he's now head coach. So hopefully we can keep Josh Grizzard around Tampa for a little bit. So there is some more continuity, but continuity was really key in this decision-making process.
And what's really important is because of his different stops between obviously being a student assistant at Yale, where he went to school, and then being a quality control coach at Duke, had a similar role with the Dolphins. But he also was a wide receivers coach with the Dolphins before coming over to the Bucs and being their passing game coordinator. So it's not like he's only worked with the quarterbacks. Like he has experience working with wide receivers. Also helped Jalen Waddle have a career best in receptions during his time in Miami. So he's not a one-trick pony. It's not like all he knows is the quarterback, and that's it. He's going to find ways to scheme Mike Evans and hopefully Chris Godwin open. He's going to find ways to get Bucky Irving the football. I'm very excited for this new, same looking but new wrinkled offense for the Buccaneers, because that's the important thing, is that you're still going to get a good amount of play action, a determination to run the football, a lot of motion, throwing on first down so you could run on second down. I'm not saying the Bucs are going to match the same number of points that they scored last year. There are going to be some growing pains, which hopefully is more in the preseason and in training camp than it is once it gets to the regular season. But the name of the game is that the Bucs offense, which averaged almost 30 points per game last season, is staying intact. It's not a new voice in the room. All of the assistant coaches are returning. Maybe one goes to Liam Cohen as an offensive coordinator who won't be calling plays, but you at least have stability. And stability has been something that the Bucs have wanted, whether it was Tom Brady leaving and having Baker Mayfield come in, whether it was having a play caller that they can trust and believe. And I think going in-house was the best way to go again. And I know people are already nervous about, well, where's he going to be next season? Who's he going to be the head coach of? And it's a good joke, but hey,
just call the first play. Again, let's let him call a play or two first.
Yeah, exactly. And if that were to happen, that means that the offense has been doing a pretty damn good job.
Right.
So, sure, there are other candidates out there, but again, outside of Nate Shieldhouse, nobody had called plays either. So you're essentially saying with the guy that we've been with for a whole year that knows this offense, that knows what works, what doesn't work, how guys kind of operate, and another guy that hasn't been here before, runs a similar system, no doubt about it, now has to learn all the players. I'm not saying it's a no-brainer by any means, because you got to learn people's personalities and how they lead and all of these things. But it makes a lot of sense with Josh Grizzard, with his experience here in Tampa Bay, even if it's only been for one season.
Yeah, and I think the important thing too to kind of discuss when it comes to like Liam Cohen, I thought one of his best attributes was not just calling plays and all that, but the fact that it was a collaborative process. Liam Cohen said, I spend more time in the offensive meeting room with all of the coaches rather than just in my office. And I know there's offensive coordinators out there that spend time in their office. That's like the lab, and they're the mad scientist, and they're working in the lab by themselves. And then they kind of meet together, and the offensive coordinator kind of like dishes out the game plan and asks for input and all that stuff. It starts and it ends in the offensive meeting room together. And Cohen dished out several responsibilities. I think Skip Pete was in charge of the 4-minute offense. Brian McClendon, I want to say, I think he was in charge of the 2-minute offense. I think Thad Lewis was in charge of red zone, if I remember correctly. And Josh Grizzard was in charge of third downs. And so he would give each situational football segment to different members of a staff. It increases accountability and buy-in and camaraderie, makes them all feel like they're a part of it. And I think that's a tremendous practice. And if Liam Cohen continues that and finds a good staff in Jacksonville, I think it's going to be really successful for him, certainly on the offensive side. But that Josh Grizzard was exposed to that really, I think, is huge, because he has that relationship. This is Skip Pete and Josh Grizzard here. He's got that relationship already with these different position groups, right? I mean, here he is looking at Bucky Irving, and that was the cool thing about Josh Grizzard is he would go from position to position. He was the passing game coordinator, but what is the passing game? The passing game is the quarterback, the wide receivers, the offensive line, the tight ends, the running backs. They all play a role. And so he would spend parts of practice going to every single position group, watching these players, learning their strengths and weaknesses firsthand by watching that. Whereas if you're, say, like Nick Caley, you're the tight ends coach with the Rams, you have tunnel vision on the tight end. If you are, a assistant quarterbacks coach, you have tunnel vision on the quarterbacks. by virtue of his title, Josh Grizzard was able to bounce around each and every practice and spend time at different positions, getting to know the players, seeing their strengths and weaknesses, seeing how the coaches also coach as well, right? And it just gives him this 30,000-foot view of the entire operation. And I think that's really going to serve him well, because he is going to go into this with a base level of understanding about these players. This coaching staff already knows the verbiage, the playbook, etc., going in. And that's something that no other candidate could come in and have that base level of understanding.
It's like he has the answers to half the test already. I can't say the whole test because different variables will come out.
That's going to come on game day, right?
Options and different looks and things like that. But he certainly has a cheat sheet. It's like Liam Cohen goes, hey, I'm graduating, but here's the answers to last year's test. Now, you go the rest of the way with it.
Right.
And I really think, along with just being in there, knowing everybody, going position by position, again, I think a lot of the times you have a young up-and-coming person, the inexperience may not help. But I think his ability to connect with these players, because he's the same age as a lot.
That's right.
He's only a couple of years older than Mike Evans and Baker Mayfield. His ability to connect with those guys on just a human level of being around the same age, probably having the same interest and things of that nature will really help this team a lot more. And we already talked about how close-knit this locker room is to begin with. Now, obviously, there's got to be that level of respect of, like, he is a coach. He's not just one of the boys hanging out in the locker room. But I still do think with the leadership of Todd Bowles, with some other older coaches around, I mean, you have Tom Moore on one end of the spectrum and Josh Grizzard on the other. I think from a continuity standpoint, from a closeness standpoint, it's another win for the Bucs compared to if they went in another direction.
I agree. We spent some time here talking about this selection. We want to hear from you. We have some super chats that are lining up patiently, waiting for their comments and questions here, and we're here to serve you. Thank you very much for joining us, by the way, in this emergency podcast here on a Friday afternoon. We all got the good news we wanted, and we're heading into the weekend with smiles on our faces. I think this is a really good hire. Why do I say that? Because I had an SR's Fab 5 written yesterday, waited to be published. It's up now on pewterreport.com. I was kind of thinking, like, well, hopefully they make the announcement Friday, because my SR's Fab 5 typically comes out on Friday. So it was already written, ready to go. Figured this was the guy. There was no one for Kaylee or Shieldhouse, so this was the guy. And so it's up on pewterreport.com. You can pull it up. I dropped it in the chat as well. So enjoy.
Let's start with these super chats and make sure you check that all out on pewterreport.com. Virgin Boys starts it off with the $1.99 super chat. Thank you very much.
You.
It says, will he keep the same coaching staff? LFG. Well, all the coaches are under contract. We've already seen that the Bucs have denied the Jaguars twice when they want to talk to offensive line coach Kevin Carberry and assistant offensive line coach Brian Picucci. So the only way that they will lose an offensive assistant coach is if one of them gets an offensive coordinator position, which can only happen right now if they went to the Jets, if they went to the Jaguars, or whatever the hell's going on with the New Orleans Saints. So really, unless Liam Cohen says, all right, I've had enough, like, I cannot part ways with Kevin Carberry, I'm going to make him our offensive coordinator. Unless that happens, the whole coaching staff is intact. So they're good on that front.
It looks like the Buccaneers, again, part of the reason why they wanted Grizzard is because they like their assistant coaches. They like the coaches on the offensive side of the ball. This was not just Liam Cohen, folks. It wasn't. And he was the first to tell you that. If you listen to Liam Cohen's press conferences, and I know some of y'all want to dog the guy out, and I understand that, but I'm just reporting the facts here. Matt, you were sitting right next to me for those press conferences. He talked about his staff. He gave his staff props. It was a collaboration. He used those words over and over again. And I think Jason Light, Todd Bowles, they're smart enough to understand. We believe him. It wasn't just Liam Cohen. Yes, he was the orchestra conductor that had the band playing in perfect rhythm and tune. But these assistant coaches that Liam Cohen hired, and this is why he wants them in Jacksonville, because he knows they're good. Brian Picucci, Kevin Carberry, already given, the sorry, you're not taking him. Reference to those two coaches. Cohen wanted him, and the Bucs aren't going to let him go. So this is a tribute to Liam Cohen hiring a really good staff, bringing on Josh Grizzard, and the Bucs recognizing, no, we like this staff. The entire ensemble of coaches leveled up our team, and we just need a new orchestra conductor, and that person is Josh Grizzard.
It's a great day for the people from the town of Lizard Lick.
Lizard Lick, North Carolina. That's right. That's where he's from.
Bucks Basement, thank you for the $5 super chat. Says, it's the best choice for continuity for sure. Also explains why Bucks blocked Cohen. Continuity on staff. I hate the hostage excuse Jags fans are saying. Yeah, there's something I want to clear up real quick because I saw it in the comments. I saw reporters from other teams talking about this, that the Bucs are being petty to the Jaguars or that they're denying Kevin Carberry and Brian Picucci some better opportunities.
Nope.
No, they're not. They're not at all. Kevin Carberry was going from the O-line coach job in Tampa. He would have been interviewing for the Jags offensive line coach job in Jacksonville. There was no difference. It was completely linear. So the Bucs have every right to block that. Same with Brian Picucci. And I understand it's a little confusing because he's an assistant coach. Yeah. The NFL only recognizes a coach going from one team to another and leveling up, if you will, is if they get a coordinator job.
Correct.
So the Bucs were still within their right to block that request for an interview with Brian Picucci as well. Yeah. If Liam Cohen just did what he did to the Buccaneers, leaving them high and dry, not answering their calls, all that stuff, and regardless of how you feel about if Cohen was right or wrong, whatever, the Bucs were very upset about it. So if that's all the case, why in the hell would the Bucs say, all right, yeah, why don't you go and take some more of our guys, Liam Cohen? That makes no sense at all. The Bucs were well within their right. This happens all the time, every single year, to the point where teams know we're not even going to request to talk to this person because they're not upgrading their own positional value. And I don't get why the Jaguars are doing it outside of like sheer pettiness. So the Bucs did nothing wrong. They're not preventing Carberry or Picucci from getting better jobs. It would have been the same exact job, but that's why you signed them to contract. So yeah, it's none of this hostage stuff. And it does make sense because the Bucs clearly value their assistant coaches, especially on the offensive side. That's right. That's why they're trying to keep the band together. And again, Liam Cohen, and I tried to express this in SR's Fab 5, he can only take one guy from Tampa, but he's got to make him an offensive coordinator, of course, in title only because Cohen's going to be calling plays. So you're not going to even be a play caller there. But like he could take like John Van Dam. He could take Jeff Castle. He could take a quality control guy, but he has to make him an offensive coordinator. He can't take like Jeff Castle and say, you're going to be the quarterback's coach here. Even though it's an upgrade by NFL rules, you're exactly right. It has to be to a coordinator level. That's the only time that you can pluck an assistant, or not pluck, but like stop them from interviewing. Is if it's a coordinator role, then you can't stop them. They're allowed to interview and get hired away in that instance. We have a $9.99 super chat from Pewter Report YouTube channel member Derek Danger. Thank you, Derek. Thank you very much. Who says, win for the Bucs. Yeah. I sure think so. And time will tell. You know, obviously results will be what they are on the field, and that'll ultimately determine whether or not it was a success. But as far as on paper, initial optics, I think this is a big-time move for the Bucs. I mean, I think a lot of us feel better about this than 2 years ago when Dave Canales came along. Yeah. And that's nothing against Dave Canales, just how far this group has advanced. So, like I said, good day in Tampa Bay. Jamel Sirleaf, thank you for the $1.99 super chat. Great question. Does Todd Bowles bring back the call-it periods? Yeah, he might. That's a great question. Yeah, because it certainly helps Dave Canales, get that live play calling experience. And what Jamel's talking about, just if you don't understand it, I know Jamel does, is usually practices, especially in training camp, they're scripted, right? Offensive coaches want to see this type of defense, right? Defensive coaches want to see this type of offense, right? Show me motion, show me a double tight end set, show me a running back flexing out to the slot, different things so the defense can practice them and vice versa. What a call-it period is, there's no scripting.
it's like you don't get to see on Sunday what the other coach is going to throw at you. It's
Right.
complete surprise. And so Todd Bowles wisely had these call-up periods for Dave Canales where it's like, we're going to go in and it's going to be, you put out the plays you want to run, we'll put out the defense we want to run. And that's as close to a game situation as you could possibly have. It totally worked with Canales, helped him level up his play calling ability tremendously. And remember, there's only 3 preseason games now. So Canales didn't even have the advantage of having 4 like we had in yesteryear, right? Where there was 4 and the fans griped and pitched about that. And we did too, because it was too many. But in those types of instances, you'd like to have that extra play calling experience from a 4th game, but there's not. So kudos to Todd Bowles. I bet you he does it again. That's something we'll have to ask Josh Grizzard and Todd Bowles in their respective press conferences. It makes a lot of sense to do so. Great question.
No doubt about it. It makes perfect sense, especially with one less preseason game. And if you want to get him as much experience as possible and get the team as prepared as possible, why not get him in those situations? And you know what? Todd Bowles probably needs it too, based on how the defense looked last season. So
I'll let you tell Todd that.
Samuel Fisher, thanks for the $10 super chat, says, I need a clone on the team, Scott. Bucs draft work ethic and character. Please talk to Jason about Jalen Noel for me.
You look good.
He's definitely a Grizzard guy. We got amazing defensive backs in the draft too. Talking about Iowa State.
Yeah, out of the 3 guys at the Senior Bowl, Darian Porter, the cornerback, who I thought was good. Jaden Higgins was okay, but I really liked Jalen Noel. This is Noel here. He was the best out of the 3 Cyclones, and I like him. I think he'd be a good fit in Tampa. Good run after the catch guy. Got some strength to him. Got some speed. Can separate. I was impressed seeing him live. He was the Cyclone that stood out to me, Sam. So
yeah, he made an incredible catch like very early on the first day of practice at the Senior Bowl. It was a sideline catch. He had to adjust with the defender close to him, but adjusted to create some more space and caught the ball and stayed in bounds. So yeah, we like him over at Pewter Report. He definitely stood out with some nice playmaking. He did more than just that one play, but
he did. He looked like he had the most polish. Looked like he brought maybe the most ability to the table. Jaden Higgins is just kind of a bigger possession type receiver. I thought Pat Bryant from Illinois was probably the better, bigger receiver there in Mobile, but I like Jalen Noel. I thought he impressed me.
Bucs Basement, thank you for the $2 super chat, says, wait, so we're not keeping people hostage, SR? LOL? No, you're not.
No, it's I mean, you're under contract for a reason, right? I mean, that's why you sign a contract. If it was just like the Wild West where you can just go anywhere you want, there wouldn't be contracts in the NFL, but it didn't work that way. So,
yeah, what if the Bucs challenge the Jaguars to like an old-fashioned duel and the winner keeps the coaching staff or something like that? And by the way, Liam Cohen wasn't strong-armed either. The Bucs offered to make him the highest-paid offensive coordinator. In history. So.
Liam Cohen made it perfectly clear to me in texts after he took the Jacksonville job, because I was texting him and wishing him well. He was nothing but great to Pewter Report. But, this was an opportunity he just couldn't turn down. The money, the chance. Look at Bobby Slowick. Like we said, it's like he got so much praise for C.J. Stroud's first year in Houston, and even was considered as a young potential head coach, and then after the second year, he gets fired. I mean, things don't stay the same in the NFL. You either get better, or you get worse. That's just the way it is in life too. And you can't fault Liam Cohen for taking this. I wish he would have gone about it a different way. I think he regrets the way it happened. Rick Stroud even went up there and did a story about that thing, saying he wasn't strong-armed. I think that was just a narrative that somebody put out there. It was not Liam Cohen. It was not his narrative, but maybe his representatives to maybe try to, defend his line a little bit. But that wasn't the case,
No, it wasn't. And it is what it is at this point with Liam Cohen. Clearly, we're all moving on. Josh Grizzard is the new offensive coordinator. And to that point, John Dale Morris, thanks for the $2 super chat,
Thank
says,
you,
Baker having continuity is going to be amazing. LFG. Could not agree
Yeah.
more. This is a big day for Bucs fans. It's a big day for Baker Mayfield as well, because he gets to keep a coach that he's worked with, play in a system that he's familiar with. Sure, there's going to be different tweaks and things like that, and they'll get together on it.
Right.
But it's not a complete overhaul. He doesn't have to have these crazy late night study sessions in the offseason to figure out what's going to work for this offense. The blueprint is already in place. Now it's just kind of adding to the repertoire.
Yeah, I agree. And again, we have to. I want people to understand this. It's like, just because Josh Grizzard is staying on and there is continuity doesn't mean that it's going to be 502 points next year. Doesn't mean they're going to average 29.5 points. It doesn't mean that Baker Mayfield is going to throw for 41 touchdowns and 4,500 yards, or maybe even more. Maybe that happens. The Bucs would love to see that. Josh Grizzard would love to see that. But just, I'll remind you, Brady threw 40 touchdowns and they won 11 games in 2020. The next year, 43 touchdowns, they won 13 games, but they didn't go all the way, right? Then the next year, he retired, unretired, came back, did have some personal issues for sure, and no Gronk and AB that played a role. Byron Leftwich was still the coordinator. Tom Brady was still the quarterback. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin was still the top two targets. And Brady went from, 43 touchdowns to 25? And the Bucs went from 13 wins to 8, right? So things can stay the same on the surface, but you don't get the same results always, right? So just keep that in mind. 502 points is the second most points scored in Bucs history. It's going to be hard to replicate that or improve on that next year. So we have to kind of reset our expectations a little bit. Recalibrate. Yeah, great word this week, Matt. Recalibrate. And I'm not saying that it can't be done. And I'm not saying that it won't be better. It can be. But Matt, let me ask you. If this team goes from averaging 29.5 points per game to 27 points per game, is that a catastrophic failure?
No, not at all.
Right.
Not at all.
Yeah.
I think if this offense can be somewhere in between where they were with Dave Canales and where they were with Liam Cohen, they will be in a good spot. Obviously, yes, you would love them to score 33 points and do even better than what Liam Cohen did. But realistically, if they can kind of find themselves within those two spots, this team will be in a good situation to win next season. Charles W. Jansen II, parentheses, Chuckamania. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Says, great teams with long history of winning lose assistants. They keep winning because it is about organization and culture. We have both. There's no doubt about it. I mean, look, the Lions just got purged with their coaching staff. Bill Belichick for years had to find new assistant coaches because his coordinators would go on to be head coaches. It happens all the time. You're seeing it with Sean McVay right now in the Rams after they won the Super Bowl the year after the Bucs did. It's just the nature of the beast, and it especially happens when you have a defensive coach. I'm not blaming Todd Bowles. It happens across the league, but that's how it goes sometimes. I think Todd Bowles, it was the right move, but it was bold of him in some people's eyes when he let go of Byron Leftwich.
Right.
So they had to find a new offensive coordinator, and it wasn't a guy that Todd Bowles has been best friends with for years and buddy. He didn't know Dave Canales before Dave Canales came in. So for this undying loyalty for Dave Canales to have for Todd Bowles, why? He had just met him a year ago. So of course he'd want to be a head coach. And it's kind of the same with Liam Cohen. And now we'll see what happens with Josh Grizzard. But yeah, there's no doubt about it. If you're a winning team, odds are you're going to lose assistant coaches along the way. That's just how it goes in the NFL.
That's right. Yeah. Well said.
Meets McGee, thank you for the $5. Says, my only fear will be a lack of balance. Will he trust the pass game more than the run game?
Yeah, I think so. Keep in mind, Liam Cohen was a quarterback at UMass, right? Yeah. And he ended up running the ball a lot. Back in school, Josh Grizzard played safety, so he was a defensive guy. So he doesn't have that quarterback bias that Byron Leftwich and Bruce Arians and Liam Cohen had. And Liam ran the ball quite a bit. And again, Josh Grizzard was here. He was boots on the ground witnessing this. Again, he saw Bucky Irving's greatness as we all did. Matt, you and I are sitting there watching training camp going wow, this Bucky Irving guy is pretty good, right? I mean, there's Josh Grizzard watching it too, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's he understands what's worked, and he's going to continue to do what's worked. And then things, you can't have the same playbook every year. You have to grow and evolve and tweak. And he has been around guys like David Cutcliffe and Duke, Chan Gailey in Miami, Mike McDaniel in Miami, Adam Gase. Remember, he was Peyton Manning's offensive coordinator out there in Denver when he won the Super Bowl with the Broncos. He's been around Liam Cohen last year. He's been around a lot of different offensive minds, from the McVay tree to the Shanahan tree to the Adam Gase, Peyton Manning tree. So he's soaked up a lot of knowledge. And I think that despite the fact that he's a young guy, he's a very bright guy. I mean, I probed a couple of my Bucs sources, and the word that I keep getting texted back to me is smart, bright, intelligent. And this is not just recently. This was like during the year when he was hired, those types of things. He's a Yale graduate. He just has got that kind of 30,000 foot view of how things kind of operate. And, you need to have that as a play caller. And he's had experience in Miami being up in the press box as well as on the field, because he was a receivers coach. He was in charge of personnel groupings, getting those relayed from the press box or from the offensive coordinator to make sure that they get the right personnel package on the field, whether it was, 11, 12, 13, whatever. So he's done a lot already, and we'll see how he is as a play caller.
The Yale education certainly has to help. And going back to his time with Miami, like you just mentioned, everyone thinks, they're high flying. Tua, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. They were, but they always had a good running game too. So I understand the worry about, he's the passing game coordinator. He's going to make Baker throw it 55 times. But when you see what Bucky Irving did, over 1,000 yards, just a highlight reel of a running back, all rookie team, he's going to have no issue giving Bucky Irving the football. He's going to have no problem at all. I understand the concern.
A good running game actually opens up the passing game too.
Opens up everything.
Yeah.
I'm sure if there's a game like, remember when the Bucs beat the Saints in New Orleans, and that fourth quarter, they just ran it and ran it and ran it.
Yep.
If they have that advantage against the team this year,
they'll do it.
They won't throw the ball if they have that same advantage. And you'll see more running backs get NFC Offensive Player of the Week.
Yep.
Shout out to Elaine Abraham. Thank you for the $4.99 super chat. So glad the Bucs stood up for themselves. This new hire was a no-brainer. Can't wait to kick Liam Cohen's ass.
I get the angst over Liam Cohen. It's a fun rivalry now. I get it. I don't want to dampen that enthusiasm whatsoever. But at the same time, Liam Cohen hired Josh Grizzard. So we have to give Liam a little bit of credit for that. Okay. He hired Kevin Carberry and all of these assistants that Liam wants in Jacksonville now. He hired to Tampa, right? So he did leave a little bit of a legacy here. So we can't crap all over Liam Cohen, people. I mean, again, I'm not trying to extinguish your fire. That's cool. I get the rivalry. It's fun, right? It's Jacksonville and Tampa now. And there really wasn't a rivalry before. So this is kind of cool. I get it. But give the man some props, right? At least he left his successor here and all of his coaches too. So this is a win for the Buccaneers, folks. This is a big win. And this is kind of a victory Friday, Matt. It really is how you look at it.
Yes.
If you're at Tampa Bay, this is a victory Friday, and that's cool. And we're used to having victory Mondays, especially down the stretch of a football season. But we're going to be talking more Josh Grizzard, who takes over the Bucs offense. That's going to be on Monday's show, and we might have a press conference on Monday or Tuesday with the new offensive coordinator. We'll wait and see. The Buccaneers still haven't officially announced that yet, but we will see when that is. So Monday show, 4:00 right here on Pewter Report TV. If you haven't subscribed, do so. It's free. Hit the subscribe button. That's all you got to do. And also hit notifications whenever we go live with emergency podcasts like this one here, or any of our regularly scheduled podcasts, or a Pewter Pulse video, or any of the videos that Matt and myself and Adam do, or Josh. Boom, you'll get a notification. You can check it out right there on our Pewter Report TV YouTube channel. And we have a special Sunday podcast too. If you're looking for some draft news and some Senior Bowl wrap up. Remember, the Senior Bowl takes place tomorrow in Mobile, Alabama, at the Hancock Whitney Stadium at the University of South Alabama, USA. And we're going to have a special live Bucs mock draft show. It's going to be live. This is not an official Pewter Report draft, mock draft that's coming out. This is a live one that you can have a role in participating in with Josh Capo and Adam Slavan. It's on Sunday right here on Pewter Report TV at 9 a.m. Same time that we would do the Pewter pregame show. So 9 o'clock on Sunday morning, live Bucs mock draft show with Josh Capo and Adam Slavan. They'd love to have you there because it's live. So you can participate, ask questions. And both those guys, myself, Matt, Bailey, we're all at the Senior Bowl this past week. And so if you have any questions about the Senior Bowl, feel free to ask them. It's the show to do it. They're going to be drafting an all Senior Bowl team for the Buccaneers with this particular mock draft. That should be fun. So make sure you check that out on Sunday at 9 a.m. here on Pewter Report TV.
Yeah, should be good. Excited for Monday's show as well. Redfish with the $4.99 super chat, thank you, says, so how does Grizzard's qualifications compare to Canales when he was hired? Not with philosophy, but credentials. So, yeah, I was checking that out. As far as Canales, he was an offensive coordinator at Carson High School, did a little high school stuff before he spent 1 year at USC. But his time in the NFL, he was a receivers coach, quarterbacks coach, and passing game coordinator for Seattle before he ended up going to the Buccaneers. So same role with Grizzard as far as the passing game coordinator, but a little more one-on-one work with the quarterbacks, where Grizzard also was a wide receivers coach like Canales was. Now, the big difference, in my opinion, their qualifications in terms of being an assistant coach, to me, is very similar. It's a little bit different, but very similar. I think it's a little bit of an advantage for Grizzard, the fact that he has seen the game through different lenses, whether it was at Duke for a little bit or with the Miami Dolphins and then with Liam Cohen here with the Bucs. I think having a different set of eyes is probably a little more helpful than Canales, who only knew what he saw in Seattle. That's just my opinion, but I would say their credentials are relatively similar.
That's a great point, Matt. And I'm going to bring this up too. I wrote about it in my SR Spat 5. Again, if you haven't checked it out, do so on pewterreport.com. I wrote it yesterday because I thought this was going to happen. So been waiting to publish it. Glad I was able to, especially on Friday. That's when SR Spat 5 comes out. Great point about Canales. He had the exposure in the Pete Carroll system, right? He had the exposure with Pete Carroll. Great head coach. Josh Grizzard, now this is really, really rare. Josh Grizzard was in Miami through 3 different head coaches. He was hired under Adam Gase. He was kept over under Brian Flores. And then from Brian Flores, he was kept over to the Mike McDaniel staff. It is rare for anyone in any coaching position, no matter what it is, to be retained from one regime to the next, going from one to the other. Like, that's understandable, right? We saw the Buccaneers defensive coaching staff under Tony Dungy remain intact for John Gruden, Monty Kiffin, Rod Marinelli, Mike Tomlin, Joe Barry. Those guys stayed because the problem was the offense, right, with Dungy. And so John Gruden was traded for, brought in. He brought in a new special teams coach and new offensive coaches, right? And but the defense stayed the same. So going from one regime to the other, that's one thing. To go from 1 to 2 to 3 speaks very highly about Josh Grizzard. And it wasn't like he was, sorry, I just got a very funny text. But the fact that he did this through in state of Miami through 3 different head coaches, it speaks to that. And it wasn't like he was, a coordinator. He was like a quality control coach, right? And he was a receivers coach. So he was like almost lower on the ladder in terms of which rung he was on. And a lot of times those are the guys that kind of get replaced first, right? Like Skip Pete stayed on from Dave Canales to Liam Cohen's staff. Same thing with Thad Lewis, quarterback's coach. So that's not uncommon. But 3 times, that says a lot about Josh Grizzard.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. That's very difficult to do. Somehow, some way, he found a way to get through, and it's a huge credit to him. Speak Facts Podcast with the $5 super chat. Thank you very much. Says, is Godwin looking at free agency this year? My coworker teases him going to his Giants. LMAO. I don't think he's going to the Giants. They have a lot of issues. Plus, they have Malik Neighbors. I mean, sure, you could use a wide receiver too. We've been on the record that he's coming back to Tampa. I mean, obviously, it has to play out, but it would be very surprising if Chris Godwin is not back in the red and pewter come next season.
Yep. Yeah, he's going to be a Buccaneer.
O2RR, thank you for the $4.99 super chat. Says, very happy to see Grizzard get the OC position. This news calls for a celebration. Please enjoy some Celsius on me. My favorite is Astro.
Yeah.
Go Bucs. So thank you so much. And yes, it is a joyous day for Bucs fans.
Yeah. Also, too, you got to try this. This is the Playa, which is the new Celsius. It's pina colada flavored, and they nailed it. They did a great job. They really did. Or as I say, the playa. Matt says, well, you're saying it wrong. It's playa, but it really could be either. Because if you're a playa, you go into the playa.
Chef Boy Arquise with a $4.99 super chat says, diehard Bucs fan living in Jacksonville here. Pray for me. Any idea who may replace Grizzard now that he has been promoted?
That's a good question. And I would not rule out Grizzard making an addition to the staff. The one thing I'm trying to pin down is I do know, I believe Skip Pete and Thad Lewis, I'm not sure. I think their contracts may be up. I don't know if they've resigned or what. I'm trying to find that out. I've yet to be able to find that out because it's been busy over there at one Buccaneer place. Not all my questions get answered in a timely fashion. Understandable. You've had a lot to do this week with all those interviews, but I wouldn't be surprised. And I'm not saying this. Thad Lewis could return next year as the quarterback's coach. So I'm not saying anything disparaging about Thad Lewis whatsoever. This is a question from Joey here, who says, leapfrogging Thad Lewis says a lot about Grizzard. Thad Lewis didn't get interviewed this year for the offensive coordinator position. He did get interviewed last year. So did John Van Dam, who was the tight ends coach. My only question about all of this is, and I've heard this from somebody, not Baker Mayfield, but I've heard this from somebody within the organization that says, if you're Baker Mayfield and you're the quarterback, you've got 4 guys in your ear. You have Liam Cohen, the offensive coordinator, of course. You've got Josh Grizzard, who's the pass game coordinator, of course. You've got Thad Lewis, the quarterback's coach, of course. And then you have Tom Moore. And whenever Tom Moore speaks, you listen because he's Tom Moore, right? He's forgotten more football than everybody at Pewter Report will ever learn, right? He is the sage over there at One Buccaneer Place. That's 4 different voices in your ear. And sometimes you need to kind of streamline that a little bit. That's a lot. That's a lot of information to process. Now, Baker's not a rookie quarterback. He's 29. He's a veteran. And he will decide what information goes in and what sticks and what is just kind of discarded and from who. So I wouldn't be surprised if they try to whittle that number down. And what I mean by that is maybe Josh Grizzard takes on the quarterback's coach role. Maybe he brings Thad Lewis back. And maybe he doesn't bring on a new pass game coordinator. Maybe he just says, I'm going to be the offensive coordinator / pass game coordinator, and we'll have me and Thad and Tom Moore, and we'll kind of like streamline it a little bit for Baker. I could be wrong. It's just a theory, something that I've heard, and we'll see what happens. But and I'm not always right, but I mean, we're pretty right about Josh Grizzard for a while now.
Yes, you were. But yeah,
we at Pewter Report, not
we everyone. You and me.
Yeah.
Charles Jance, W. Jansen II, Chuckamania, thanks for the $2. Grizzard looks like Baker's brother. I see it a little bit.
Yeah.
Baker's never really had long hair in his career, but yeah, I can see it.
Mm-hmm.
Kathy Gillespie, thank you for the $9.99 super chat. Says, "Yay, live. What about the assistants that have been requested? Any chance there would be hard feelings for not allowing them to interview? Do you think management spoke to them? Chance for promotions?"
That's a very good question, Kathy. Very good question. Just like last year, they only interviewed 2 in-house candidates, Thad Lewis and John Van Dam. Those were the 2 guys. And I'm not throwing any dispersions towards Thad Lewis, but he was one of, I believe, 2. So was he a Rooney Rule interview last year? Yes and no. He was, because he was one of the minorities that they did interview. At the same time, I know Todd Bowles thinks very highly of Thad Lewis. So that was not just a, hey, we need you to check the box interview. I mean, they legitimately gave him that. What it does, too, for young assistants is it gives them experience, right? Mm-hmm. Whether Thad Lewis ends up staying here and eventually becoming OC one day or going somewhere else and possibly getting opportunity, the more experience you can get in these interview type situations, the better. And so it didn't hurt, but that didn't get the interview this year. Josh was the only one. And I think that you're very selective in that. If you're general manager Jason Light, head coach Todd Bowles, Matt, you don't want to interview the entire staff, because then you get hopes up, right? And then someone's going to be disappointed. If you only interview one guy and he gets it, there's less angst because, they picked him over me. Now, you could say that, well, he got the interview and I didn't, right? But at the same time, everybody has their roles, like on the team. And there's one coordinator for a reason. Everybody else is a position coach. And that's just the way it is, right? There's one quarterback, and he and the center get to touch the ball every play. Sorry, wide receiver, you don't get to touch the ball every play. Same with you, running back. Same with you, tight ends. Offensive lineman, if you're touching the ball, not the center, hopefully it's recovering a fumble, right?
Yeah.
So that everybody has to have their role on the team. And so it doesn't make a lot of sense unless you're super interested in a couple guys, you only give the interview to the guy that you really want. And in this case, it was Josh Grizzard.
Yeah, totally agree. Callie Dab, thanks for the $1 super chat. Eric Colson with the $4.99 super chat, thank you, says, "It would be great to see some of Todd Bowles' defensive coaches earn a promotion to another team. Weird to have him 6 years and 1 went to get a promotion," which, strangely enough, was to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Mike Caldwell.
Yep. A couple of years ago.
Yep.
There will be a new coaching change on the defensive side with Casey Rogers going to the Detroit Lions. So there will be a new defensive line coach, the one position that maybe they didn't need an assistant coach. It has been odd, though. After all these years with this vaunted Bucs defense and same cast of characters.
Yeah, and I think that's a little damning too. It just shows that Todd has to he's got to get some young blood in there. I will give him credit. Rashad Johnson, the nickel cornerbacks coach, did wonders with Tyke Smith. He's young. I think he's 38 years old. He's the youngest guy on the defensive staff. I like him a lot. And listen, Larry Foote did get an interview for the defensive coordinator job in Detroit. So, there have been some movement in the right direction there by going with some younger, more energetic guys. And I'd love to see Rashad Johnson become the cornerbacks coach and ultimately replace Kevin Ross. That's just me, though.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. I'd be down with that, too.
Yeah.
Callie Dad, thanks for the $5 super chat, says, "Does Grizzard have the chance to become the next head coach if Todd Bowles fails to improve with timeout usage and game management?"
It's too early to tell. I get where
way
you're going.
Too early. We got to see how for everything about Todd Bowles, we got to see how this offense looks. I mean, we can't pencil in that they're going to be great. I'm not going to pencil in that they're going to be terrible either.
Right.
You got to let it see it play out.
Maybe, this hiring,
maybe not, who knows?
This hiring gives the Buccaneers offense the chance to be closer to picking up where it left off rather than starting from scratch. And that's really all we can determine at this point in time.
Yes.
Because of the continuity of the playbook, the verbiage, the system, the scheme, the philosophy, the coaching staff, it has a chance of being much closer to picking up where it left off at the end of last year than it would if you bring in somebody new verbiage, new system, new scheme, new philosophy, new coaching staff, and blowing up and starting from scratch. Yeah. That's all this guarantees is just a chance that happens.
Yeah, like they are positioned to be in a good spot.
Yes.
But they're just positioned. It's not a guarantee.
Exactly.
Darius Miller, thanks for the $4.99, says they went from gorgeous Canales to odd-looking Cohen to serial-looking Grizzard.
What does that mean?
The offense gets even more beautiful.
What is the serial looking?
Well,
is he like from the serial killer? Is that what he's talking about?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
The Netflix show You? Killer. I wouldn't say that about Josh Grizzard. He's a handsome young guy. I mean, good guy. I mean, there's a 6-minute and 30-second press conference, and that you can watch from back in February or March, where all of the assistants met with the media. It's the only press conference he did, to my knowledge, on Buccaneers.com that he did with anybody from the media, really. And this is a picture from that press conference. Seemed like a hell of a nice guy, So you can watch it and be
seems cool.
Yeah, seems very cool. So,
James Sirleaf, thanks for the $1.99. Any news on the defensive coordinator or defensive line coach?
Well, it's interesting, right? Because you had Casey Rogers and Larry Foote as the co-defensive coordinators. So I'm not sure if there'll be another guy that's going to get that co-defensive coordinator title, or if it's Larry Foote, if there'll be the singular defensive coordinator. I'm not sure. I don't know. But this took center stage. They'll shift their focus to defensive line coach, now. It's easier to find defensive line coaches than it is to find offensive coordinators.
Yeah, they needed to handle this before anything else. Yeah. Kathy Gillespie with the $1.99 super chat, thank you, says, I meant the guys requested by the Jags. This goes back to her previous super chat about any hard feelings about kind of blocking the request to be interviewed.
No, I don't think so.
I think it's more like flattering. Like, hey, the Bucs want them so much that they can't talk to anyone else.
Yeah, it's not like they're being punished for not being able to go to Jacksonville. It's like, oh, sorry, Kevin and Brian, you get to coach Tristan Wirfs, the best tackle in the game again, and the up and coming center, our first round draft pick, Graham Barton, and the guard that has a Pro Bowl in his future, Cody Malk, and also the right tackle who's got a Pro Bowl in his future, and Luke Gedeke. Sorry, it's not like that. I mean, they're fine with staying here. And maybe they get some raises. I don't know. I don't control the budget. That's Mike Greenberg's bag. But they don't have to sign an extension. If they want to go coach with Liam next year, they can. We saw that with Harold Goodwin and Joe Gilbert. They left Tampa when their contracts were up, and they followed Dave Canales to Carolina. Buccaneers weren't terribly sad to see them go either. They were like, do you want to stay? We're just asking. And they're like, we think we'd rather go. Like, okay, bye.
That's how it goes sometimes. Yeah. But the Bucs are in a really good spot. Another super chat just came in. Callie Dad, thanks for the $5. Any chance Todd Bowles picks up any defensive coaches to help with game management on the defensive side?
I've heard that game management will be a focus for Todd Bowles this offseason. I don't know how that's going to take place. I don't know what the mechanisms or the roles, how that's going to manifest itself on game days. But the Buccaneers just have the press release here.
Yep. They just announced it.
Yeah.
Part of the crew.
Yep. So, So he is just the offensive coordinator, not like offensive coordinator / quarterbacks coach or whatever. So, but so that's that. But I don't know. I've heard that that's going to be a focus this offseason. I don't know how it's going to take place. I don't know what the mechanism is going to be to help with that. But that's going to be the focus, is improving Todd Bowles' game management. They know organizationally it's been addressed. It needs to get better. And that's all I know right now. I'm not sure how it's going to get better, but I do know that has been a point of discussion.
He sure needs it, but overall, this is big news today with Josh Grizzard
Yep.
new offensive coordinator, an in-house name, which is good. There's still some getting to know you type of stuff, but nonetheless, someone that's been here, knows his team, knows this offense and what works.
Right.
And hopefully we'll keep that continuity that many want Baker Mayfield and company to still have for this year.
Yeah, a couple of programming notes real quick. Just to let you know, if you have not been to Walk-Ons, the Senior Bowl is on TV tomorrow, and the Pro Bowl is on TV on Sunday, right? Do I have that right? Sunday?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So you got some football to watch, and the place to go to watch it is at Walk-Ons. You can check out the new Walk-Ons Rewards app and download it. When you do, and you sign up for it, they're going to give you free mozzarella logs, which are honestly the best appetizers they have. They've got some great apps. I love them all, but that's the best. So it's well worth it. It's about $14 worth of free food right there. So make sure that you download and save and win, and you can earn points with every visit. You go to Walk-Ons, the new Walk-Ons Rewards. And when you try their wings are amazing. You try their wings with the new Southern Bourbon sauce, which is a limited time only sauce. You're going to earn 100 bonus points for doing that, just for getting the sauce. So it's a great way to earn some points and get some rewards at Walk-Ons, 3 locations in the Tampa Bay area. Wesley Chapel up here by me, Midtown Tampa down there by the stadium, and by Matt Patera, as well as Lakeland. So get to Walk-Ons this weekend and watch some football, because there's not much football left, folks. But we're going to have another Pewter Report show on Sunday. It'll be our live Bucs mock draft show. This is something that they'll do with a probably like Pro Football Focus, their live draft mechanism.
Yeah.
And Josh Capo and Adam Slavon will get your input, and they'll make the picks with Senior Bowl players. So this first show will be Senior Bowl players only. That'll be fun, because we saw some pretty good Senior Bowl players. And that's on Sunday at 9 o'clock right here on Pewter Report TV, as well as our Monday show. It's kind of a victory Monday, right? Even though the Buccaneers haven't played, this feels like a win. A very positive Monday. I like that. Josh Grizzard takes over the Bucs offense. We'll have more on the Josh Grizzard hiring on Monday's show. We appreciate you tuning into our Pewter Report podcast. If you have not done so, you should become a Pewter Report TV channel member, because we just got through with our Pewter Insider podcast.
We did.
And we dished out some scoop there on all things Buccaneers, including the hiring here. So we do the Pewter Insider podcast every Friday at 1:30. It's a special podcast for our Pewter Platinum and Pewter Premier members. And there's different levels of membership you can join, from $3.99 to $6.99 to $9.99 to $24.99. Find the one that fits your budget. And we greatly appreciate the support. It helps us do things like go to Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl to get boots on the ground, inside scoop and intel on these draftable players, as well as going to the Combine next month. We'll be in Indianapolis again. And so the revenue we generate from our channel members goes right back into information for you, because we work for you, the Pewter people. And we greatly appreciate the support. So again, I also added some new emojis. You might see the Jason Light, Bucky Irving, Baker Mayfield. I think I did 1 or 2 more, and I'll have more emojis for y'all to use as well. So, and last but not least, we are always on the lookout for new advertising partners. So if you want to help your business score some new customers, well, advertise with us. The Pewter Report podcast reaches literally hundreds of thousands of viewers each year. And we've got 1.5 million viewers on pewterreport.com each year. We have over 110,000 social media followers between X, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So your business is going to get plenty of exposure. And if you have interest in advertising with the Pewter Reports enterprise, you can do so by emailing me at sr@pewterreport.com, and we'll have a conversation about it. So a lot going on at Pewter Reports, and a lot of big news happening today. A new Pewter Reports story about Josh Grizzard on the front page of pewterreport.com, as well as my latest SR's Fab 5, which was written on Thursday and pubbed about an hour ago. So check it out, please.
Before we sign off, we have one more super chat to get to. Thanks to JT Pine for this $5 super chat. Says, SR, you are a defensive-minded guy. You should apply to be his game manager.
I don't want him to ignore me. So I think at the end of the day, if he does hire somebody to do this, I think Todd's just going to go with his gut anyways. He just seems like one of those guys. I could be wrong. I'm not trying to throw shade at Todd Bowles. I don't know. I wouldn't want that role. Pass rush? maybe, but not game management.
That's going to do it for us on today's show. If you're not already doing so, please follow us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We are at Pewter Report, and our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment below as well. This has been a lot of fun.
Yes.
So, for Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks, everybody, for watching. Appreciate you tuning in for an emergency podcast. And we'll
see you Monday
again for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.